Jonathan Reed stepped into the sleek conference room on the 42nd floor, his black leather briefcase in one hand and a confident smile playing on his lips. The morning sun filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, lighting up polished marble floors and reflecting off the metal legs of a long glass table. Reed had practiced this moment for months. His company, Greenflow Energy, built a small pilot project in Ohio that cut energy waste by nearly 30%. And now he was pitching for the next round of funding. Every detail mattered: his crisp navy suit, his neatly knotted tie, even the careful placement of his presentation clicker. He greeted the other investors with a nod and a slight bow of the head. One by one, they returned his greetings with polite smiles and firm handshakes. Reed noticed two older gentlemen at the far end of the table, each wearing tailored jackets that spoke of decades in finance. Beside them sat a younger woman, her auburn hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, observing Reed with keen interest. But all eyes seemed drawn to the man at the head of the table, Gerald Thompson. Thompson's dark eyes shone with authority, his gray hair trimmed short, and his crisp white shirt perfectly pressed. As Reed approached, Thompson sat back in his high-back leather chair and folded his hands on the table. Reed reached out a hand, palm open and relaxed. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Thompson," he said in a clear, warm voice. His lips tightened for a moment before he raised his chin and offered only a slight nod. He did not extend his hand. Reed's fingers hovered in the air for a beat as the other three investors exchanged glances. The junior investor tugged at her notebook, as if uncertain whether to look away or intervene. For a moment, Reed felt a brief surge of confusion. He'd read every article on professional etiquette, practiced firm but friendly handshakes with countless partners. He had never faced a cold refusal at the very start. Reed recovered his poise and slid his hand back to his side, gently closing his fingers around the briefcase handle. He offered a small, polite smile and shifted his focus to the arrangement of people at the table. Without drawing attention to the slight, he cleared his throat and clicked his remote once. The projector hummed to life, casting the Greenflow Energy logo on the screen behind him. The room fell silent. Red inhaled deeply, letting the memory of the recoil slip from his mind. He had come to speak about innovation, and that was precisely what he would do. He began in a measured tone. Greenflow Energy improves existing solar installations by layering smart microinverters that adapt to weather changes in real time. Our system has already demonstrated a significant reduction in downtime and energy loss. His voice was calm but enthusiastic. He advanced to the next slide, revealing charts that showed the Ohio pilot site's hourly energy output over 6 months. Lines climbed steadily, even during overcast days. The senior investor to his left leaned forward, squinting at the data as he mouthed the rising trends. The auburn-haired investor scribbled notes, her pen dancing across the page in rapid strokes. Reed continued without hesitation. He spoke of his own journey, how he grew up in a small town where the local factory closed and left families without work. His parents worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on. He spoke of the first time he saw a solar panel field on a road trip, the way its glass panels shimmered like a field of mirrors. He described the moment he realized that clean energy could lift struggling communities, not just by sending power to homes, but by creating jobs and local revenue. As he spoke, his passion was palpable. The investors exchanged looks. The momentary awkwardness of the handshake faded in the face of Reed's story, yet Thompson remained silent. He watched Reed's every word, his gaze sharp and calculating. He jotted something on a legal pad, then tapped his pen against the table. Reed sensed the unspoken question hanging in the air. Can he deliver at scale? Clicked to the slide detailing market growth projections. He laid out conservative estimates how Greenflow could capture 4% of the national retrofit market within 3 years. He then broke down the cost per installation, the expected savings for customers, and the company's path to profitability. He made sure to emphasize that his small, agile team could respond faster than larger competitors, and that their low overhead allowed them to reinvest heavily in research in the corner of his eye. Reed saw the junior investor glance at Thompson and nod slightly. That tiny gesture spoke volumes. At the same time, The other senior investor leaned back and folded his arms, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Claire Liu, the young woman, whispered to her neighbor, "He's done this before. He's lead a company."
Reed didn't.
Missed the whisper, but he didn't let it show. He knew that humility and quiet confidence went farther than arrogance in a room full of skeptics. Reed introduced his team next. Co-founder named Maria Lopez, whose background in electrical engineering balanced Reed's own expertise in business strategy. He spoke of her innovative algorithms that optimized energy inputs on the fly. A third member, data scientist Raj Patel, had fine-tuned their predictive models, making output forecasts accurate down to the minute. Reed clicked 2 slides with each person's photo, titling them as leadership team. He paused to let their faces appear on the screen, emphasizing that GreenFlow was more than one man's vision. It was a collaborative effort driven by diverse talents. It was then that Thompson's expression flickered. The screen revealed Reed's own photo alongside the title's CEO and co-founder. Thompson blinked once, then twice. His eyes narrowed as he processed the fact that the man standing before him, whom he had barely acknowledged, was the very leader of this promising enterprise. Reed allowed the silence to stretch for a moment. He did not comment on the revelation or recoil at the memory of the handshake. Instead, he let the slide speak for itself. The air in the room shifted. The earlier tension gave way to genuine curiosity. Reed moved on to his closing remarks. He spoke of the company's values, integrity, respect, and community. He explained how they planned to use the investment, expanding their team, launching marketing campaigns in key regions, and scaling their production of microinverters. He laid out realistic milestones and invited questions. His tone was respectful, even toward Thompson, who still sat in silence. Reed's composure never wavered. He had handled the initial slight with grace. Now his professionalism shone in every sentence. As Reed finished, the room remained still for a heartbeat. Then, Claire spoke up. "I'd like to know more about your customer acquisition strategy," she said, her voice confident and clear. The investor beside her chimed in with a technical query about inverter efficiency. Reed answered each question thoughtfully, drawing on his pilot data and his team's expertise. Thompson listened, occasionally punctuating Reed's answers with brief clarifications. The earlier refusal to shake hands felt like a distant echo. When the question period ended, Reed clicked off the projector and smiled. "Thank you for your time," he said, inclining his head to each person. He reached again for Thompson's hand. This time, Thompson put down his pen, rose slowly, and offered a deliberate handshake. Reed took it, firm and unwavering. Thompson's grip was respectful now, his eyes meeting Reed's. The other investors nodded approval, the mood in the room now warm and businesslike. Reed packed his briefcase with calm efficiency. He knew there would be follow-up calls and due diligence, but this first meeting had gone exactly as he hoped. He had shown his vision, remained composed under bias, and let his results speak louder than any preconception. As he walked toward the elevator, he felt a quiet sense of victory, not just for GreenFlow Energy, but for every young entrepreneur who faced barriers they did not create. Today had been a reminder that respect often had to be earned twice, once by talent and once by the courage to keep going, even when someone refused to see it at first glance. The elevator doors closed behind Jonathan Reed as he left the conference floor, and a wave of relief washed over him. He walked briskly down the hallway toward a small waiting area where his co-founders, Maria Lopez and Raj Patel, were seated. Maria's eyes sparkled with pride, and Raj offered him a fist bump. "You were incredible," Maria said softly. Jonathan gave a small, tired smile. "We did well," he said. "The real test is now." They stepped into a glass-walled lounge overlooking the city skyline. The late morning light cast long shadows on the floor. Jonathan set his briefcase on a sleek coffee table and pulled out his phone. He tapped the calendar app and saw 3 messages already waiting. One from their chief engineer in Ohio, one from a lawyer about trademark filings, and one from Claire Liu, the junior investor, requesting a follow-up call. Maria leaned back into the plush chair. "Claire's text said she wants more data on our customer acquisition," she said. She seemed excited. Jonathan nodded. That's good. If we can shore up that plan, we'll have her fully on board. He glanced. At Raj, what about Thompson? Raj hesitated. He seemed impressed once he realized you were the CEO, but he hasn't reached out yet. Maria frowned slightly. He might take a day or two. He'll want to see more detailed financial forecasts before he commits. Jonathan tapped his fingers on the table. Let's give him something to talk about. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a slim folder. Inside were updated projections, 5-year forecasts, break-even analyses, and a schedule for hiring. He handed the folder to Raj. Can you refine these numbers and integrate the notes Claire sent over? She mentioned looking for region-specific customer growth rates. Raj nodded. I'll get on it right away. Maria stood and stretched. We'll draft a proposal for a pilot expansion in Texas. We can show real numbers from a southern climate. Jonathan's face brightened. Perfect. I'll email Thompson tonight with a concise executive summary and invite him to visit our Ohio pilot site next week. They worked through bullet points and section headings, speaking in calm, focused voices. They knew that momentum mattered. By the time they reconvened an hour later, they had a clear plan. Raj would update the financial models by end of day. Maria would outline the Texas expansion strategy, and Jonathan would craft the follow-up email. Jonathan stepped away too. Make the first call. He dialed Claire Lou's number. Line rang twice before she picked up. Hello, Mr. Reed. Thank you for calling. Her voice sounded bright and professional. Jonathan smiled. Please call me Jonathan. Thank you for your interest today. I wanted to follow up on the data you asked for about customer acquisition. Our models show that in regions similar to Ohio, you can sign up 100 residential customers per 10,000 households in the first year based on pilot response rates. For Texas, we anticipate a slightly lower rate, initially around 80 per 10,000, but it will grow to match Ohio's after 6 months with targeted outreach. Claire made notes. That's excellent. Could you send me the underlying survey data and the demographic breakdown? Jonathan tapped his pen. Absolutely. I'll send you the raw survey results and a demographic report by Cobb today. Claire paused, then said, One more thing. Would you be open to having me visit the Ohio site next week? I'd like to see the installation firsthand. Jonathan's heart lifted. We'd be honored. How about Wednesday morning? Claire agreed. Wednesday at 10 a.m. works for me. Thank you, Jonathan. He thanked her and ended the call, feeling energized. A site visit from an investor was a strong sign. When he rejoined Maria and Raj, their eyes met with a shared sense of purpose. Claire's on board to visit, Jonathan said. She wants all the details today, and she'll come to Ohio next Wednesday. Maria clasped her hands. Amazing. We can schedule time with our installation team to walk her through everything. Raj tapped his tablet. And I'll have the updated forecasts in a few hours. Let's send everything by 5 p.m. Jonathan nodded. Added. The rest of the day flew by in a blur of emails, phone calls, and last-minute data checks. Raj tweaked spreadsheet formulas to account for different electricity rates in Texas. Maria. Together, customer testimonials from the Ohio pilot, editing them into a polished document. Jonathan drafted the email to Gerald Thompson, careful with each sentence. He opened his laptop and typed, Dear Mr. Thompson, thank you again for your time this morning. As requested, please find attached our detailed financial forecasts and customer acquisition data. We believe these projections demonstrate the strong potential for regional expansion, particularly in markets like Texas. We would be delighted to host you on site at our Ohio pilot installation on Wednesday, July 23rd. At 10 a.m. to answer any further questions and showcase our team's capabilities. Sincerely, Jonathan Reed, CEO and co-founder, Green Flow Energy. He reread the email, adjusted a phrase for clarity, and added the attachments. With a deep breath, he hit send.
Ow.
Then he closed his laptop and leaned back, feeling the weight of the day settle on his shoulders. Maria looked at her watch. Let's celebrate, she suggested with a grin. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. Celebration? Maria nodded. Quick toast coffee and cookies from the lounge downstairs. Raj laughed. That sounds perfect. They gathered their things and headed to the cafe in the lobby. Over steaming. Mugs of coffee, they allowed themselves a few minutes of relaxed conversation. They spoke of small joys. Raj's upcoming weekend fishing trip, Maria's nephew's baseball game, Jonathan's wife's new art exhibit. For a moment, conversation drifted away from work, and it felt good. The next morning, Jonathan arrived. At the office an hour early, he switched on the lights, filled a water glass, and stared out the window at the pre-dawn light. He thought about the meeting with Thompson. The initial refusal to shake his hand still stung, but only slightly. What mattered now was how he handled it. He had handled it with grace. He believed that respect was earned through hard work and results. He reminded himself that Greenflow Energy's mission was bigger than any single investor. His phone buzzed with an incoming email from Gerald Thompson. Jonathan opened it with steady hands. Thompson wrote, "Jonathan, thank you for the prompt follow-up and detailed data. The projections look solid. I would like to discuss a potential co-investment with my partner, Ms. Patel, to participate in the Ohio site visit as well. You available for a call tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Regards, Gerald Thompson." Thompson Capital Partners. A smile crept across Jonathan's face. He typed a quick reply confirming the call. He felt the momentum shifting. Thompson was now engaged, showing genuine interest. The day ahead suddenly felt brighter. That afternoon, the call with Thompson and his partner, Ms. Patel, went smoothly. Jonathan guided them through the numbers and answered questions about installation timelines and legal agreements. Thompson's tone was professional, even warm. He thanked Jonathan for the clarity and said he looked forward to Wednesday's visit. Jonathan thanked him in return and ended the call feeling optimistic. The rest of the week passed in a steady rhythm of preparation. Maria coordinated with the Ohio team to schedule a full site tour, safety briefing, and lunch with pilot participants. Raj created a presentation that walked investors through technical details, complete with photographs of panels and sun and rain. Jonathan booked a conference room at the pilot site and organized travel accommodations for Claire Liu and Miss Patel. On Tuesday evening, Jonathan sat at home reviewing his presentation one last time. His wife Laura joined him at the kitchen table. She poured him a cup of tea and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're going to do great tomorrow," she said. He nodded, grateful for her support. "Thanks. It's just everything. Feels like it's riding on this visit." Laura squeezed his hand. "You've built something amazing. You'll show them exactly why." The next morning, Jonathan arrived at the Ohio facility before sunrise. The air smelled of fresh grass and dew. He walked the length of the solar array, tracing his fingers along the metal rails, imagining each panel's daily harvest of sunlight. When he returned to the control building, he found Maria and Raj already there, arranging chairs and testing the projector. Claire Liu and Ms. Patel arrived at exactly 10 a.m., stepping out of a black SUV with notebooks in hand. Maria greeted them with warm smiles, while Raj handed out printed agendas. Jonathan introduced the investors to the site manager, who led them through safety protocols. Then they walked amid the rows of panels, Jonathan pointing out the smart microinverters, explaining how they adjusted in real time to cloud cover. Investors asked detailed questions about maintenance, warranties, and energy storage. Jonathan answered each one confidently, his voice steady and assured. He noticed how Claire and Ms. Patel exchanged impressed glances. They gathered under a canopy for a small lunch, featuring local produce. Pilot participants, homeowners who had joined the program, shared how their bills dropped and how they felt proud to be part of something good for the planet. The investors listened, nodding. Claire turned to Jonathan and said, "Hearing these first-hand stories is so powerful. This is the human impact behind the numbers." Jonathan smiled. "Exactly. Our goal has always been to blend technology with community benefits." After lunch, they returned to the control building for the presentation. Raj guided the investors through the updated financial models and more. Jonathan Reed stood in his office the next morning, the Ohio sun spilling through the windows and warming the room. He gazed at the whiteboard where he had sketched growth targets and key milestones. A gentle hum from the air conditioner was the only sound as he prepared for the day's big task, negotiating term sheets with Gerald Thompson. After the successful site visit, Thompson had sent a draft term sheet late last night. Reed felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This sheet would shape Greenflow Energy's future. Reed opened his laptop and reviewed Thompson's terms. The valuation was fair and even generous, but the control provisions gave Thompson's firm too much power over major decisions. Reed frowned. He believed in shared leadership and in empowering his team. He drafted a response email, noting the areas where he wanted more balance: the board composition, veto rights on strategic pivots, and the timeline for capital deployment. He aimed for a collaborative tone. Once he was satisfied, he hit send and leaned back. He took a slow breath, remembering how far they had come from a small pilot to this crucial moment. Across town, Gerald Thompson reviewed Reed's email over breakfast. Thompson's partner, Ms. Patel, looked up from her coffee. "What's wrong?" she asked. Thompson tapped the screen. "Reed wants to change several provisions." Ms. Patel nodded. "He's the CEO. He deserves to say Thompson's side." "True, but we need protections." They agreed to push back only gently and to propose a neutral third board seat instead of the original heavy veto power. Thompson drafted his counterproposal and sent it to Reed, adding, "Let's discuss on our call tomorrow." Office, Maria Lopez found Reed at his desk. "Any update?" she asked. Reed showed her the email. Maria scanned it. "These are reasonable requests," she said. "He's asking for team input, not to take control." Reed smiled. "Yes. I want us to stay true to our values." He called Raj Patel over, and they reviewed the counter-proposal together. Raj checked the financial models to ensure the timeline for capital calls still aligned. "Everything still works," Raj confirmed. Maria drafted a marked-up cap table showing how board votes would shift under the new structure. Reed felt confident. As he sent a meeting invite to Thompson for the next afternoon, Reed joined the video call with Thompson and Ms. Patel. Reed greeted them warmly. Thompson looked tired, but attentive. Reed began. "Thank you for meeting with me again. I appreciate your counterproposal. I'd like to explain why the board structure matters for us." He shared his screen showing the cap table and leadership team chart. He explained that giving the founders a majority of board seats would help maintain the company's vision and speed of execution. He stressed that slowing decisions could harm the pilot sites and delay customer growth. Thompson listened, nodding slowly. When Reed finished, Ms. Patel spoke. "Jonathan, your points are fair. We want to support your leadership, but also protect our investment." She suggested a compromise: a 5-member board with 2 seats. For founders, 2 for investors, and 1 independent expert chosen by mutual agreement. Reed paused, considering. He liked this structure because the independent member could mediate deadlocks, he agreed. Thompson smiled. "That works for us. We'll add that to the term sheet." They shifted to other points: the timing of future fundraising rounds, the vesting schedule for new hires, and the milestones tied to tranche releases. Each time, Reed spoke clearly about what would help the team stay motivated and deliver results. Thompson and Ms. Patel responded with thoughtful adjustments. By the end of the call, both sides felt satisfied. Thompson said, "Jonathan, I admire your clarity and professionalism. I look forward to finalizing this." Reed thanked them and logged off, a sense of relief washing over him. He turned to Maria and Raj, who had been listening in. They celebrated with quiet smiles. Maria hugged Reed. "We did it," she whispered. He nodded. "We did it together." Over the next few days, the legal teams traded documents and Reed's lawyer polished the agreement. Meanwhile, Reed focused on internal planning. He gathered the leadership team, Maria Raj, the Ohio site manager, and the new business development director for a strategy session. He laid out the updated timeline for the next quarter: hiring 2 technicians, launching marketing in Texas, and preparing for the next pilot in Arizona. He emphasized that investors expected tangible progress now that the term sheet was nearly final. Everyone took notes, asked questions, and volunteered ideas. The room buzzed with energy. On the evening the final term sheet arrived, Reed sat in his home office. The document was clean, reflecting the agreed compromises. He read each section carefully. When he reached the board structure clause with the independent member, he felt a surge of satisfaction. He signed electronically, clicked submit, and leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed with emails of congratulations from team members. And a few texts from friends. Reed smiled. Texted Laura, "We closed our round tonight," and she replied with heart emojis. The next morning, the city felt bright and full of promise. Reed arrived at the office and found a small cake waiting. In the conference room, courtesy of Raj's planning, the cake read, "Congratulations, Team Greenflow." Maria handed him a coffee cup that said CEO in bright letters. Reed laughed. He cut the cake, offering slices to his team. They stood around the table, eating and chatting about weekend plans. It was a simple celebration, but it felt meaningful, a moment to pause before the work ahead. Reed returned to his desk and opened his email. A message from Thompson Capital Partners appeared. The subject line read, "Welcome aboard." Reed clicked it. Inside, Thompson wrote, "Welcome to the Thompson Capital family. Believe in your vision and look forward to supporting Greenflow Energy's growth. Please plan to join us at our next investor retreat in 2 months so we can introduce you to our network." Reed felt a warm pride. He drafted a reply confirming his attendance and thanking them for their trust. That afternoon, Reed called Maria and Raj into his office. He explained the investor retreat plan and asked for their help in preparing a presentation on Greenflow's milestones and next steps. Maria offered to create slides highlighting the Ohio and Texas plans. Raj volunteered to update the financial dashboard for investor review. Reed set a date for their prep session and felt confidence in his team's ability. Later, Reed walked through the pilot site grounds, the gentle breeze ruffling his hair. He thought about the journey so far, the countless late nights, the technical hurdles, the moment Thompson turned away from his handshake. He realized that every challenge had taught him something vital: to remain calm under pressure, to speak clearly, and to depend on a strong team. He believed those lessons would guide Greenflow as it scaled. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Red returned to the control building where Maria and Raj were reviewing site data. They shared a quiet moment watching the solar panels gleam. In the evening light, Raj said, "You know, when you handled that term sheet negotiation, I felt proud to work with you." Maria nodded. "Me too." Reed smiled. "We earned respect in this room because we stayed true to our mission and to each other." They looked at the panels together, imagining the clean energy powering homes and businesses. In that moment, Reed felt a deep sense of purpose. Greenflow Energy was more than a company, it was a promise of a better future. He knew there would be more obstacles ahead, but he also knew his team could overcome them. And he carried with him the resolve to lead with integrity, respect, and unwavering belief in their shared vision. You said. Part 4 KO, expand KRO without heading 1,300 words my in simple. Jonathan Reed stepped into the warm afternoon sunlight as he left the control building, the Ohio pilot site stretching behind him in neat rows of glass panels. He felt upbeat after the site visit, but he also knew that finalizing the deal still lay ahead. Gerald Thompson had agreed to lead the funding round. But Reed wanted to address one more matter in person before everything was sealed. He tapped his phone and saw Thompson's number. With a deep breath, he dialed. "Mr. Thompson," Reed said when the call connected. Thompson's voice sounded cautious, even tired. "Jonathan, hello? I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. I wanted to thank you again," Reed replied. "And I wondered if you had a moment to meet in person. There are a few final details I'd like to discuss face to face." Thompson hesitated. "I'm back in New York today. Could you come to my office this afternoon?" Reed glanced at his watch. It was already past 2. "I can be there by 5. Thompson agreed. "See you then?" Reed hung up and shared the news with Maria and Raj, who cheered quietly. They knew this meeting could set the tone for the partnership. By early evening, Reed found himself in the lobby of Thompson Capital Partners building in Manhattan. The marble floors gleamed under bright lights, and a polished receptionist directed him to the elevator bank. Reed smoothed his suit jacket and pressed the button for the 37th floor. The elevator rose quietly past floors filled with investment teams and executive suites. His reflection in the mirrored walls looked calm, but inside he felt both excitement and nerves. reminded himself of the journey from that first handshake refusal to this pivotal moment. The doors opened to a long corridor lined with framed art. At the end, a glass door bore the name Thompson Capital Partners in silver letters. Reed knocked lightly. A voice invited him in. He entered Thompson's office and found the investor. Standing by a large window overlooking the city's skyline, Thompson turned, his expression unreadable. He offered a brief nod. "Jonathan, thank you for coming." Reed smiled and extended his hand. Thompson took it immediately, no hesitation. This time Anne shook firmly. Reed felt a sense of progress. "I wanted to talk about one thing before we finalize," Reed began. He gestured toward 2 chairs by a low table. Thompson motioned for him to sit, then settled into his own chair. Reed sat and took a deep breath. "I appreciate your apology earlier about the handshake, but I believe it's important we both understand what happened so we can move forward on mutual respect." Thompson looked away briefly, then met Reed's eyes. "You're right, I was unprepared and I'd let a bias color my reaction. I'm sorry for that." Reed nodded. "Thank you, I accept your apology. But more than that, I want to share why. Respect matters so much in business relationships." A pause to ensure Thompson was listening. Fred leaned forward, folding his hands. "When you introduced yourself that morning, I extended my hand because it's a simple gesture of partnership. It shows equality and willingness to collaborate. When you pulled back, it sent a message, even if unintended, that you saw me as somehow less than. That moment traveled through the room faster than any slide I presented." Thompson's posture softened. He nodded. "I understand. It was a reflex, but that doesn't excuse it. I let assumptions get the better of me," Reed continued gently. "I want our partnership to be built on trust and open communication. I don't want us to work together only because of contracts and board seats. I want us to work together because we respect each other as people." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small gift, a wooden plaque engraved with a quote from Nelson Mandela about respect and dignity. "I thought you might appreciate this," Reed said, handing it to Thompson. Thompson accepted the plaque, his eyes softening as he read the inscription. "Thank you," he said quietly. "This means a lot." Read aloud a brief smile.
I
"Believe in clean energy and in fairness. I know your firm cares about both." Thompson met his gaze. "I do. I'm glad you spoke up. I want you to know I'll be mindful of that gesture and any others going forward." Reed felt genuine sincerity in Thompson's words. He stood and offered his hand again. "Then let's shake on it." Thompson stood and took Reed's hand firmly. They held the shake for a moment, a silent promise between them. They sat back down and shifted to review the final term sheet. Thompson slid the document across the table. "Everything looks in order," he said. "I'll sign here, here, and here." Reed initialed each page, then signed. They exchanged copies. Thompson leaned back, folding his hands. "Jonathan, I admire how you handled that situation. It takes courage to speak up. I think this is the start of a strong partnership." Reed nodded. "I'm glad. Let's build something great together." Thompson smiled and stood. Reed rose. As well, feeling the weight of relief and excitement settle in his chest, Thompson walked him to the door. "I'll have my team coordinate with yours on next steps," Thompson said. "We'll get the funds wired and schedule the first board meeting in 2 weeks." Reed thanked him and stepped out into the hallway, closing the door behind him. As he walked back to the elevator, he imagined how GreenFlow Energy's future would unfold. New markets, more installations, a growing team. But he also thought of the simple handshake, a reminder that respect was the foundation of any success. On the elevator ride down, Reed reflected on the afternoon. It had been about more than deals and documents. It had been about human connection. He realized that facing bias head-on calmly, honestly, had turned a moment of tension into a moment of trust. By the time he reached the lobby, he felt lighter, as if a small burden had lifted. He exited into the cool evening air and hailed a taxi back to his hotel. That night, Reed drafted an email to his leadership team before he even unpacked his suitcase. He wrote, "Team, we've signed the term sheet. Gerald and his firm will be joining us as lead investors. I spoke with Gerald in person today, and we came to a place of genuine mutual respect. This partnership is built not just on numbers but on shared values. Rest and recharge tomorrow. On Monday, we'll meet to plan our next phase, scaling operations, hiring, and our first board meeting. Thank you for all you've done to bring us here, best Jonathan. He hit send and lay back on the hotel bed, thinking of Maria and Raj working late at the site, unaware of the details but sharing his vision. He closed his eyes, feeling gratitude for his team, for the journey, and for the lesson that respect and courage could change everything. The next morning, Jonathan returned to Ohio, flying in early to prepare for the board meeting. He arrived at the office to find Maria and Raj waiting with coffee and breakfast sandwiches. They greeted him with wide smiles. "Congratulations," Maria said, handing him a cup. Raj added, "You handled everything perfectly." Reed smiled, sipping the coffee. "We did it together," he said. They walked through the pilot site, the morning sun glinting off the panels. Reed felt a renewed sense of purpose. The handshake with Gerald was more than a gesture. It was a commitment to lead with respect at the heart of GreenFlow Energy. As he re-entered the control building, Reed thought back to that first meeting, to the slight he had faced, and to the powerful moment of confrontation and courage in New York. He knew there would be more. Challenges ahead, technical hurdles, market pressures, and perhaps more biases to confront. But he also knew that with honesty, respect, and a strong team, GreenFlow could weather any storm. And in that knowledge, he found strength to face the future, ready to build a company that powered homes, inspired communities, and embodied the very respect he had fought to earn. Jonathan Reed stepped into the conference room, greeting each member of the newly formed board with a warm smile. The room was fresh and bright, the GreenFlow Energy logo etched in frosted glass behind the head table. Around him sat Maria Lopez and Raj Patel on the founder's side. And on the investor's side, Gerald Thompson, Claire Liu, and Ms. Patel. Between them sat the independent board member, Dr. Simone Carter, an experienced clean energy consultant. Chosen by both sides. Jonathan placed his briefcase on the table and took a deep breath, ready to begin this next chapter. He cleared his throat and began. "Thank you all for joining our first official board meeting. Today, we'll review our accomplishments since the funding round closed, set priorities for the next quarter, and outline our path to profitability." His voice was steady, and he scanned each face to ensure he had their attention.
Gerald gave
A nod, his handshake now a comfortable gesture of partnership. Claire leaned forward with interest. Raj quietly flipped open a notebook, ready to record action items. Maria smiled at Jonathan, her eyes reflecting pride in how far they had come. Jonathan clicked the remote, and slides appeared on the screen. The first slide showed milestones: the successful Ohio pilot expansion, Texas onboarding in progress, and the near completion of Arizona's feasibility study. He spoke of the Ohio site's new performance data energy output, up 10%, on upgraded inverters and shared positive feedback from Texas homeowners. He introduced a short video clip of a family explaining how their solar panels had cut utility bills. The room grew quiet as voices on the screen spoke of savings and a cleaner home. When the clip ended, Jonathan said, "These stories remind us why we do this work." Dr. Carter nodded. "The data looks promising, and hearing those testimonials gives context to the numbers." Jonathan smiled. "Exactly. We balance technical excellence with human impact." He advanced to the next slide. Financials. Raj stood and walked to a whiteboard where he'd written key figures: revenue, burn rate, and forecasted cash runway. He explained that with current contracts and pending orders, the company would break even by Q2 next year. He outlined strategies to manage expenses and accelerate sales, including a referral program offering discounts to homeowners who recommended neighbors. The board asked questions about customer churn and marketing costs, and Raj answered with confidence, citing detailed reports. Next, Maria presented the operations update. She described how the engineering team had streamlined installation processes, reducing labor hours per site by 20%. She proposed launching a training program to upskill local technicians, creating jobs in every community where Green worked. Claire and Ms. Patel exchanged approving glances. Maria concluded with a plan to partner with community colleges and technical schools for recruitment. This approach builds goodwill and ensures we have skilled staff to meet growing demand, she said, her voice clear and steady. Jonathan then opened the floor for discussion. Gerald spoke first. I'm impressed by the progress. I'd like to discuss expanding into 2 new markets next year, California and Florida. These states have high solar incentives. Jonathan nodded. I've commissioned market studies for both regions. Initial data shows California's permitting process is complex, but Florida's market is underserved in many rural areas. We can pilot there after Arizona, Dr. Carter added. We should also consider partnerships with local utilities to streamline approvals. The board debated incentives, logistics, and regulatory hurdles. Jonathan guided the conversation, ensuring each viewpoint was heard and addressing concerns with clear, data-driven responses. Halfway through the meeting, Gerald paused and looked at Jonathan. Jonathan, can I say something? When we first met, I made a mistake. I judged you unfairly before I knew who you were. Since then, you've shown leadership and grace. I want to publicly acknowledge my error and apologize again for that handshake. You've earned my respect. Jonathan felt a warmth in his chest. He smiled and said, Thank you, Gerald. That means a lot. I believe in moving forward together. The room resonated with a sense of unity, Claire added. That moment showed us the importance of respect in real time. Set the tone for our collaboration. Others nodded in agreement as the meeting drew to a close. Jonathan summarized the key decisions. Finalize the Florida pilot by the end of Q3. Launch the technician training program next month and prepare the next fundraising round 6 months ahead of schedule. He assigned tasks to Maria, Raj, and Dr. Carter. He thanked everyone for their insights and dedication. The board rose and they shook hands Jonathan with each person, including Gerald, Claire, Ms. Patel, and Dr. Carter, symbolizing the strong bonds they had formed. After the meeting, Jonathan and his co-founders gathered in a nearby cafe. Maria ordered lattes and Raj picked up pastries. They found a quiet corner and settled in. Maria raised her cup. To new beginnings, she said, her eyes shining. Raj grinned. To teamwork and resilience. Jonathan touched his cup to theirs. To respect, courage, and a brighter future. They clinked mugs and shared a moment of genuine celebration. That afternoon, Jonathan returned to the pilot control building. The sun shimmered on the panels as he walked through the rows, imagining the growth ahead. He stopped by the maintenance shed where the technician trainees were practicing. He greeted them and watched as they learned to calibrate inverters and troubleshoot wiring. A trainee asked, Are you the CEO? Jonathan smiled and knelt to speak at eye level. Yes, he said, and I'm proud to work with people like you. The trainees beamed, motivated by his words. He stayed to answer questions, encouraging them to ask for guidance whenever they needed it. As evening approached, Jonathan joined the community town hall meeting held in a local church. He and Maria had organized the event to introduce GreenFlows. Plans for Florida and California pilots? Residents filed in, curious about solar benefits and job opportunities. Jonathan stepped to the microphone and spoke plainly, in simple English. He explained GreenFlow's mission, the training program, and the planned community partnerships. He answered questions about costs, maintenance, and local hiring. People nodded, and some applauded. A middle-aged woman said, I'm glad you came here to talk with us first, Jonathan replied. Your voice matters. We build this company together. Sincerity resonated. And the meeting concluded with warm applause. Walking back to his car under a sky painted with pink and orange, Jonathan reflected on the journey. From that cold meeting room where a handshake was refused, to this moment where he was leading a community conversation, he had grown as a leader. He knew the road ahead would bring technical challenges, market shifts, and potential biases in new territories. But he also knew he had a team that believed in him and a culture rooted in respect. That night, Jonathan returned home and found an email from Gerald Thompson. The subject line read, Looking ahead. Inside, Thompson wrote, Jonathan, Congratulations on a successful first board meeting. I'm excited by our plans for Florida and look forward to supporting your vision. Let's review progress in our next call. Jonathan smiled. He hit reply. Thank you, Gerald. Let's keep building together. He closed his laptop and sat quietly, thinking of the panels glinting in the Ohio sun and the trainees learning their craft. He thought of communities embracing clean energy and investors. Standing beside him in respect and trust, Jonathan lay back and closed his eyes, grateful for the lessons learned, to lead with integrity, to confront bias with courage, and to build partnerships on genuine respect. Greenflow Energy was more than a company. It was a testament to what happens when people see each other's worth. And as he drifted to sleep, he knew that tomorrow would bring new opportunities to shine light, both from the sun and from the strength of every person who believed in a better world.